Oh, well, hello there. Welcome back to Cultural Anthropology. Today's subject is going to be fieldwork and ethnography. Fieldwork is a very important aspect of what an anthropologist does. This is where we gain a lot of our information, a lot of our insight. And so today we're going to be covering really how we go out and gather that information and how we turn that into an ethnography. And basically, an ethnography is sort of like a story of the people that you're working with. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So, why do anthropologists use ethnographic field work to do research? Well, basically, it's a type of research methodology that focuses primarily on people. Okay, and this process has been developed over time so that we can really try to learn and understand what other cultures are like, and how do we study them, and how do we try to understand them. Oftentimes, fieldwork entails living within that population. So, going to live and work within that community, learning the language, learning the skills that you might need to live in that community, understanding the rights and responsibilities of being a member of that community. And we also try and understand their culture through their own eyes. Basically, we're trying to get an idea of what it's like to be them, right? And once we have a better understanding of what it's like, then we can put together the pieces to understanding that community and how we can then translate that into sort of a language that other people will understand, right? So you're basically working as a translator from this community to your own community. Uh, to become an anthropologist, you really have to go beyond the classroom and using texts. This is really important to understand. A lot of what anthropology entails is actually doing field work. It's actually going out there and talking to people and living that lifestyle and really getting to know what it's like. So it's an integral part of becoming an anthropologist, and a lot of your credibility as an anthropologist stems from your research and where you have gone and what you have done. So, if you want to be an anthropologist, it's going to be tough if you don't go anywhere or experience any of the folks that you're studying. Uh, a lot of early anthropologists, that's actually exactly what they did. We oftentimes call them like armchair anthropologists, where they would take reports or manuscripts or research that was done from other people and then compile that into some sort of ethnographic analysis. And they are not exactly the best ways of doing things. And a lot of that comes from just being able to experience things firsthand. And that's where a lot of anthropology sort of really excels, is learning how to do it firsthand and what are the important things you have to know and understand to be that anthropologist and to get that good information. We also often don't go in it alone. We go in with other people, other teammates, and we create bonding experiences with those other field researchers. And I think one of the really important things that we try to understand, or at least to create, is a sense of empathy with the folks that you're working with, to understand and appreciate what it is that they go through on a regular basis. What are their lives like? What are the issues that they experience on a regular basis? and really to get an understanding of who they are, right? And if we can do that, then we can be successful in our field. I think I mentioned this last week. There's this concept of culture shock. Okay, culture shock is this process in which either you're going to another community or you might be coming back from a community in which there might be a lot of differences between the community that you're coming from and the community that you're going to. And it can become overwhelming, disorienting, and you might have to take some time to adjust to that culture, to understand, where you fit there and how to adjust to even, adjusting to the time, like how do they experience time? The food, experiencing food shock, not having your traditional foods that you eat on a regular basis available to you. Language barriers. All of these different things can have an immediate impact on you. And so one of the most important things that you can do as an anthropologist is to try and sort of build up the ability to adapt to culture shock. To be able to say, okay, I know what I'm getting into, and yeah, it's going to be a little crazy, and I might not get everything right off the bat, and it's going to take some time to learn, but as I'm learning, that culture shock starts to disappear. And oftentimes you become very comfortable within that community. Now, sometimes you will also experience culture shock on your journey home. When you get back, you've experienced this other culture for a while, and time can mitigate some of this. But for example, when I have done my previous research working on, say, like the Ute Mountain Reservation, where I would go out and I'd be camping for 2 months out in the desert, and I'd have 25, 30 students. We'd be working with the Ute Mountain tribe. We would have students in various departments within the tribal government. We'd be doing all of this stuff, and we basically create our own culture there. We're not only working with the native population, but we're also creating our own unique culture. And we do it for 2 straight months, right? And 2 months doesn't seem like a long time, but it can be a very rapid process getting to know people, getting to know not only the folks that you're working with as a researcher, but working with the folks in the community. And I can remember coming back to Denver and going out with a number of my friends. We'd go to a bar or something like that. And they'd be talking about their designer jeans, right? These designer jeans that they spent $200 buying, and I just came back from working with this community, and there's living out in the desert and all this awesome stuff. And I realized, man, I hate this culture of buying designer jeans, right? That's oh man, that's so not what I care about right now. Not that I ever cared about buying designer jeans in the first place. That's neither here nor there. But the thing is that when you come back, sometimes you encounter things that you wouldn't normally think about until you've experienced something else, right? You've got a different perspective on how things can go, and those realizations can be difficult to understand how you feel about these issues. So yeah, it can be difficult at times. So doing field work. So by conducting field work, you are not only exploring another culture, but you're also exploring your own. As you learn about other people and living with them and working with them, you're also sort of contemplating your own culture and how it varies and differs. And in this process, you understand like how how your culture starts to work, right? And once you start seeing how other things work, it also makes you contemplate your own culture and how it is operated, how it works and functions. And it also helps us to understand this concept of ethnocentrism and how we can avoid it. Ethnocentrism is this idea that my ideas, right, my ideas are the right ideas, that whatever I say is the absolute truth, and that my culture or my beliefs are beyond reproach, right? That this idea, this concept, is something that can't be beaten by anyone else. And this can have a huge impact on your research. If you're working in another culture and you have this sense of ethnocentrism, oh my, and you have this other sense of, or you have this sense of ethnocentrism, in that this is my culture is better than theirs, you're going to go into that community without sort of taking the best approach, right? Taking the best way of understanding and appreciating that community. So I think it's really important to really focus on ideas of bias. Okay, and this is where bias comes in. A lot of times when we take a very strong stance on something, we might not always appreciate an opposite opinion. And so, if we go someplace and we look at this community and they do something that doesn't fit within your moral or ethical values or your certain ideas, then you might miss something that's very important because you are focusing on something else entirely. So it's always good to kind of keep that in mind. I think one of the other important things to sort of understand is fieldwork as an art and a science. So as anthropologists, we are scientists, right? We practice the science of anthropology. We approach things as a science. But that's not to say that there isn't an artistic aspect as well. With anthropology, we try and approach it with a thoughtful process of observation, and we write down all of our notes, and we do all these different types of research, and we try and provide as much positive and negative data that we can find, right? We're recording everything, and then we can do an analysis on it. The artistic aspect of it, however, is how we actually go about doing this. So, because you're a person, and every other person is a little bit different, and other cultures can be very different, and so you kind of have to figure out a way to talk to people, how to engage with other folks, and how to accomplish your tasks with dealing with other people. And it can be complex, and it can be difficult to understand, and trying to understand other people's perspectives, and then fitting your own personal bias into that. And I think that one of the most important things that we can do, and this stems from understanding your own personal bias, is being able to recognize that. Being able to recognize, I have certain views about culture. There are certain things that I believe in, and that when I go someplace else, that if I recognize that I have this bias towards something, if I recognize it, then I can step around it. You know, I can start to say, okay, so this is how I'm feeling about this. This is my understanding of this, but maybe here it's a little bit different. Maybe there's something else going on that I need to try and understand. So I think it's really important to sort of take this approach, to go from being an outsider in a community to an insider within that community, you know, and to step away from your own ideas and thoughts and feelings about that culture and try and learn what it's like to experience it from them. And I think one of the other important things is that you have to understand that being a part of this culture, that you have to be willing to change a little bit. You're gonna grow, right? You're gonna experience new things, and they're gonna have an impact on you as an individual. And that's really important to understand. Really important to understand that you will be changed, and that the community that you go into is also going to be changed from having you there. I think one of the important things about understanding field work and doing it is that it helps you also in your daily life back home, right? It can give you a sense of perspective. When you experience something and you want to get a different idea about it. Anthropologists are oftentimes very fluid in their ability to understand perspectives. That's kind of what they're really good at. And so if there's a subject or a culture that is looked at and there's a lot of negativity towards it, we're like, wait a second. You know, maybe we need to do an analysis on this, and maybe we need to think about what are some of the positive things that could be there. And kind of figure those things out. And it also helps you to sort of test new ideas. You know, it can bring alternative ideas to your thought process, which can help lead to new perspectives, right? Because now you've got a background and some experience in something that is very distinct from your own culture that you can bring in and help, you know, give you some new ideas and new perspectives about your own. And I think that's really important, not only within the field of anthropology to understand, but on a personal basis to be able to recognize those things. Okay, we're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll jump into the next video, and we'll continue with some more concepts and ideas. Okay.